Hunter Biden, DDT, drone strikes, famine, abortion, war. Take three. All right, that was my neighbors. Sorry, they were bringing us peach cobbler. It was very sweet of them. We're still having neighbors every day come and welcome us to the neighborhood. All right, so here's my point. A lot of you have seen the Hunter Biden videos. You are going to show it to your friends. There are more videos coming that are increasingly more repulsive. And you're going to show those to your friends, and it's not going to change anything. Although at the beginning to them was all about decency. They couldn't, even though Trump's policies were more closely aligned to theirs, these Christian conservatives, these anti-war folks, these whole life folks, although Trump was more, his policies were more closely aligned to theirs, they were voting for Biden because of decency's sake. Now these videos are coming out, and you're going to be shocked, and you're going to say, I'm so confused. So I just want to share with you just an experience I had in college that taught me all I needed to know about the left, okay? I would wear these shirts around campus that they would say, DDT is good. That was the shirt. Because in the 90s, the global ban on DDT was responsible for killing about 500 million Africans and Asians, right? We used DDT to manage our malaria problem in North America and in Europe. So you could say the global ban on DDT was one of the greatest policy disasters in the history of the world. I mean, it did kill 500 million people. You could put it up there with Mao's agriculture reforms and the COVID shutdowns, which have driven 250 million people close to famine. But the global ban on DDT today is probably still the policy decision that led to the most deaths. So I would wear this shirt, DDT is good. I had like a 30-second argument that I would make when students, these environmental whack jobs, they would come up to me and they would be so upset. Some of them would almost cry. They'd be tearing their clothing. They'd be so shocked at my shirt. And it was just a white Hanes shirt that I wrote, DDT is good on it, right? So then I would tell them, listen, I'm not going to sit here and debate you. I want you in a week to come back to me if you really care and explain to me why I'm wrong. Explain to me why DDT is bad and why we should keep the ban. And do you know what happened every single time? I'm telling you, classmates, dorm mates, every single time they would come back to me and they would say, you're right. The global ban on DDT has led to all of this death in Africa and in Asia. But then they would come back with, but don't you think we need these people to die because of population control? Don't you think in the long run it's better that we ban DDT because it will help thin the population? So these were people who a week before were calling me Nazis. A week later were themselves Nazis, literally Nazis, advocating eugenics and genocide. And what it taught me was that people that we call the left in this country, they're just a type of person that is always pious to the gods of the city. They're always going to conform to the prevailing ideology. They're always going to, in an act of piety, defend the dominant or most influential or most established, most credentialed opinion, right? So when you have Facebook, Google, Twitter, right? When they are communicating a meme, that's the side they will be on. They will never be risky. They will never be daring. Of course, also in college when I was opposing the NATO bombings of civilian targets, including ski resorts in Serbia, ski resorts, water pumping stations, factories, apartments, and a TV station under Bill Clinton, the left always found an excuse, to defend it. We saw the same thing with Obama. His drone war killed over 1,000 children. I wrote an article where I was able to obtain the names that the Department of Defense had. I published an article in 2012 where I listed as many of the names, it was hundreds of names and ages of children killed by Obama drone strikes. No one on the consistent ethic left, none of the whole life folks on the left seemed at all concerned about Obama's drone war, John Brennan's drone war, and all of the quote unquote black and brown children that were dying. They just didn't care. Again, with the COVID shutdowns, the people that tell us every lives matter and you've got to wear your mask and you have to social distance, and if you don't do that, you're a murderer. When in March, I was doing podcasts, articles, and ranting to my friends on Facebook that we were about to starve the world. And in fact, now we know, just yesterday in Nigeria, there were riots for food. 250 million people this winter will be on the verge of starvation. And this is caused not by COVID, but by the ham-fisted totalitarian government response to COVID, shutting down the economy, slowing down food production, food processing, and food distribution. You can show this to your friends that are faithful subjects to the gods of the city, right? They would never wear a burqa, but they wear their Fauci burqa. I call this the Fauci burqa. Why is that? Why someone would shout in your face that you can't tell a woman what to do with her body will shout in your face that your wife should put her mask on. It's because the only thing that they are faithful to is what they think is powerful. So they conform to power, which means they will never be on the side of the vulnerable, because the vulnerable are those outside of protection from those in power. And no one wants to be alienated from power. And the best way to alienate yourself from those in power is to side with those who are vulnerable. And so the left will never do that. So this Hunter Biden video is not going to make a dime's bit of difference in how they're going to vote, because at the end of the day, they don't even know why they think the way they think. It's mimetic. They conform like birds in a flock. What is a mystery is that those of us who deny the gods of the city, those of us who are impious by nature, and we're also blessed to live in the only civilization in the history of the world that is grounded on stories of impiety, right? Socrates drank the hemlock because he was impious. Jesus was nailed to a cross because of his impiety. Even the Trojan War, which is the story of course, the Iliad and the Aeneid, again, it's a story about impiety, celebrating the impious. So we're blessed that we live in a society that, of course, every generation makes their Socrates drink hemlock. But we always have Jesus Christ and Socrates as sort of the founders of the two streams of thought, Jerusalem and Athens, faith and philosophy. Right? Anyways, that's all. Don't be dismayed. Just be prepared. It's going to be, for me, it's interesting. It's like a social experiment to watch how people just, facts do not influence them at all. And it is always disheartening when people you think have an authentic concern for the vulnerable. Again, you can talk to them about the border and they'll say, Trump put people in cages and that was the worst thing ever. Then that you present them the evidence that actually Obama built the cages, and they flitter to the next thing Trump did. They never go, whoa, really? That meme from the media had influenced me greatly on my opinion of Trump. Wait, that's not true. It was Obama. Not because they don't really care about the children in the cages. You can explain to them how an open, porous border is dangerous to the most vulnerable Americans and the most vulnerable Mexicans. Why? Because it lures vulnerable people into an underground economy in this direction. Guns flow that direction. Drugs come in this direction. And it's gangs and cartels that are bringing both back and forth, right? So when you can prove to them that a secure border protects the vulnerable, that a mandatory verification system makes sure everyone works in this country has legal protection, that it's in the interest of Wall Street and the Chamber of Commerce to keep an economy resting on millions of people you're exploiting without legal protections and fair wages. When you can communicate all of that to them, it doesn't matter, right? They immediately revert back. Sometimes it's a day or two or four, but just like a bird, right? It has to find the other birds and then it flies in harmony in the flock. So that's all. That's my little rant today. All right. I'm going to go play with my children. I have to build I bought them, those basketball games in the arcade where you just do this? I just bought that for them, for the playroom. Just in case Biden wins and locks us down for the winter, I got to make sure my kids are entertained.